All right. Okay, let's get started our next edition of Ragic Office Hour. And let's start with question 161. Okay. Editing the same entry at the same time on different multiple versions. It seems allowed if two users are editing the same entry on multiple version sheets, but does that mean user who saved later will override the user who saved the entry first? Is it possible to prevent two users editing the same entry even on multiple versions then? I think this is already blocked if it's on the same exact sheet. Yes, what you observe is correct. Right now, if you're on the same sheet, we're gonna block the other user, pop up a message says that the other user is already editing this record. But if it's on multiple versions, and right now we do not block the other user or pop up this message. So, but we do have an enhancement which will account for these types of multiple versions, so that if you're editing one version, and it's going to lock the record for all versions. So this change should be coming online like in at most a couple of months. So we will be making the change so that when you lock one version of the record, and other versions of the record will also be locked. And when it's not locked, if it's not locked, it will not necessarily override the other user, because we do have some ways to determine if these two edits are editing the same fields. So if they're editing different fields, Ragic will try to merge these two different edits into the new edit. So it will not necessarily override the earlier edit. And Ragic will try to do a merge with these two edits, even if it's not blocked. Currently, we do not block the second user when they are accessing multiple versions of the same record, like if they are editing on the same sheet. Okay, but we will be adding blocking for multiple versions. So, okay, and secondly, even if two users are editing the same record, Ragic will try to merge two concurrent edits so that in most cases, when they are editing different fields, these two users will not override the other. Okay, I hope this answers your question. And yeah, we do have both mechanisms. So when concurrently editing records, there's the, if you learn database design in school, there's going to be a pessimistic lock and optimistic lock. So we actually implement both mechanisms. So to merge them after if there's a conflict, and before there's a conflict, we also do a lock to notify the other user. Okay, the price of database designing. So if I was to ask Ragic Partner to design a database for me, is there like a general pricing structure, such as how partners generally price their design service in different circumstances or examples? In other words, how is Ragic design services priced usually? Or do I get quoted by partners one and ask them separately? That's actually a pretty good question, but it's not very easy to answer, because for like IT consulting companies or software services companies, these how they quote you on your project varies a lot. And as a general rule, I would suggest that you can ask about their hourly price or a man-day price, like how much do you charge for your consulting service or programming coding service per hour. So usually you should be able to compare different services by their hourly rate. So this is what we usually see. And even if the partner does not quote you by the hourly rate, generally they will try to determine the project size by asking developers how many hours or how many days they need to finish the project, and they will add up these different prices like X amount of dollars per hour for junior developers and X and Y amount of dollars for senior developers and some Z amount of dollars for their project manager. So they're gonna structure their pricing basically like this, according to how many man hours or man days used by different types of developers. So because this could be a little bit, the calculation could be a little bit complex. So usually for some companies, when they finish this type of calculation, and they'll just give you a lump sum, or okay, we can do this within our project scope at this amount of dollars. Okay, so usually, in my experience, usually companies, they quote based on the cost structure of how many man hours they estimate that they will need to spend on your project. So if you're wondering, how they come up with this price, you can kind of ask them, how many man hours are included in this project. So usually you can also kind of estimate how large the project is by kind of estimating, how many hours it's gonna take you to finish the project, and times the current market value of the developer man hour. So I hope this gives you kind of a structure of how usually these IT consulting companies and system integrators how they structure their quotes. Ragic partners will do an estimate on your project by number of hours, developer hours or days needed. The quote will be based on their hourly rate times the estimated development hours. Okay, that's basically usually how it's calculated. So it will depend on the estimate the partner gives on a project, the estimated number of hours on the project, and their hourly rate. So this is the reason that it's usually recommended to talk to the partner about your requirements and then ask for a quote. So a lot of it really depends on how complex your requirements are. So if it's something simple versus something hard, it's going to require a different amount of hours. So they really need to know what you would like them to do to create with Ragic to really give you a quote that they're confident with. All right, next question. Is it possible to block execution of an action if a certain field is empty, even if it's not a mandatory field? An action. Huh. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by an action, but um, if it's like a JavaScript workflow action, then it's really easy because you could just write script to determine, if a field is being filled out. So if it's a JavaScript related, code related action, it's kind of easy for you to determine if it, to only execute if a field is filled out. But if it's like other types of actions, like the action buttons that you created and in the change design, then I think the best way would be to use the conditional formatting to kind of just block the whole action button from being able to execute. So let me give you an example here. So if you go to the form page, you can go to Form Tools and Conditional Formatting, and you can check for certain rule and if you're going to lock an action button. So you can lock an action button based on a certain rule here. Okay. So we don't have an action button here, so there's no action button to choose from. So basically, you can add a conditional formatting to lock an action button. Use conditional formatting to block the execution of an action button. All right. Okay, next question. All right, here's the question. I have an existing sheet with about 1,000 records for expenses. In that sheet, I have several fields, including a payment date, currency, and amount in above currency. Okay, so additionally, I have different sheet, including date, currency, and exchange rate. Okay, so you have a different sheet for different exchange rates on different dates. Okay, my goal is to add new calculated field in which I will calculate the value of the expense in a different currency using the exchange for specific payment date in the exchange rate sheet. Finally, I would like to update the 1,000 records with the new value of the different currency. For example, all data for 1,000 records are in USD. I would like to process to update the values in the different currency and keep both fields -1 in USD. Oh, both fields, one in USD and the other in Euro. Okay. Okay, let's assume that these records are in USD, so you would like to know the expense amount in Euro, and based on the exchange rate on that expense date. Okay, let me think for a sec. So how do we do this? This definitely sounds possible, but it just takes a little bit of design. Yeah, I think we should be able to do this with by adding a unique key to the currency table. So let's try this. Okay, so let's go design a new sheet. So currency sheet. And the currency sheet would have like a date and USD amount, USD to euro rate. Okay, this should be a number. And yeah, just like this. And okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we have the conversion rate for different dates. Okay, let's see if we're gonna need other extra fields here. So let's say that this is 1.1 today. I don't know, just a number here, and maybe yesterday is 1.05. Okay, so let's just start with these two records on the exchange rate for 2 dates, and let's start with create another expense report. So let's keep it like really simple. So an expense date, and so USD amount, euro amount. Okay, so if we're gonna have and we're gonna have the currency here, so USD to euro rate. Okay. All right, and of course we can actually use the currency field. We have an exchange rate field, but it only fetch the currency exchange rate for today. So I can understand that if you need to use a specific date for the currency exchange, then you'll have to have another table for that. And actually, in the future, we will try to support having 2 fields to fetch the exchange rate. One date field and one type of exchange rate. So yeah, but for now, then this could be a good example of how to do this type of formula and link and load to calculate this amount. Okay, so let's save the form first, and we should do a link and load from the currency sheet. So we should load the expense date to the using from the currency exchange, and then the USD to euro rate, and should load the rate here. Okay, and the USD amount is here, so the euro amount should be A3 times A5. Okay. So this way, when we create a new expense, we choose an expense date, it's going to load the euro exchange rate. So it's $100, it's going to be euro amount of, if the exchange rate is 1.1, it's going to be 110. So this should work. And even if the amount is not there, you could use the link and load tool to sync this set of link field and do a little formula recalculation, apply the formula, do the loading again, do the recalculation, then you should have the amount again too. All right? I hope this example is clear, so that you know that you can use link and load and formulas in conjunction with each other to do this. And if you have like multiple currencies, you can even give the currency a unique ID. Like in the beginning, I say we should probably have an ID for this, so we can insert like currency ID. And the currency ID, we should be able to generate it with like multiple fields. So target currency. So we should have the ID to be something like A2 plus A3. Okay, make it read-only. So when we create a new one, we can have a currency ID like this. Target currency, like euro on this date. So we'll have a currency ID like this. And when you do link and load, and you can, when you're entering the expense report, you could try to generate the currency ID with fields that you have here, and to fetch the appropriate link and load exchange rate here. So basically the ID is right now we just use the date as an ID because we only have one currency. But if you have multiple currencies, you can generate, using a formula to concatenate the expense date and the currency name, and you can load the currency's exchange rate on that date to this field, and you can do a further calculation with the USD amount to calculate the euro amount or for other currencies. Okay. Okay. You can do this with link and load plus formulas. Please see webinar video for a demo. All right. Next question. How can I set a notification for every change made to the list? I have a sheet where employees are adding entries. I would like to be notified each time when an old entry gets edited. Okay, it's quite simple. Just go to your personal settings. Oh, I'm not active here. Okay, let's go to another different sheet to do this. Like, for example, we can go to another account that we have. So you could switch to personal settings and notifications. So you could click on any individual tab, or like for this sheet, you could, in the personal settings, you could just like notify me when a record related to me is updated, or any new record is updated, or notify me when the record is updated. So you can use this notification configuration in your personal settings to do this. You can use the notification configuration in your personal settings to subscribe to changes on a sheet. All right. Okay, next question. I need to rebuild a sheet with 600 records and several attachments per record. Okay, several attachments per record, 600 records. I need to keep the data, but to move or copy some of it from field to new field in the same sheet. Okay. Keep the data, but move or copy some of it from field to new field in the same sheet. You're copying attachment from some field to another. Also, I need to move some of the attachment from field to field, so copying the value. You want to copy the field values from one field to another. Well, I'm not exactly sure why this is needed, but I would imagine that you should be able to do this with formulas. So a very simple formula, like the original value of the field is in A1, and you could just, and your new field is at A2. So you just add the formula on the cell A2, and the formula would be A1. So each time the value of A1 would be copied to A2. And that would also work for files, because it's basically a file name that's stored there. So copying the file name will point it to the correct file. So yeah, you could just simply use a string formula to refer to the old old field on the new field. To copy the value on the old field to the new field. This should also work for file uploads. Okay, last question. If Ragic fails as a company, what do we do? Our data, the structure of our database. Okay, I appreciate the response to similar questions and open source conversion. We have only used Ragic for about 5 weeks and appreciate the power in the easy to learn and use platform. It's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for your 30+ person team. Congrats. Thank you. And that said, we expect to invest a great deal of our time to build out our Ragic databases. If Ragic fails as a business, what will our options be to secure our data and Ragic database structure? We can download our data, but how will we use it if Ragic is gone? Will we to GCP, AWS, Snowflake, or the like that could load and run MySQL data? Of course, we want Ragic to be super successful. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Okay, thank you for the question. And first of all, I still want to stress that Ragic is not your the startup companies that you see, because we've never received any outside investments. So we have bootstrapped all the way here, and this is our only product. So if the company exists, we'll never abandon this product because it's basically our only product, and it's a very profitable product for a company our size. So so because we're not burning any cash and we run a pretty lean operation, we have only 30 people, and our company can survive with a lot less revenue. So actually, so we're not our company will not die down if we have if we don't grow, or if we have half of the revenue we have right now, our company can still survive, with some cost cutting, but our company would be able to survive. So we run a very, very lean company, so that because we do understand that these data of all these companies are super important to them, and we will want to make our company, this product, as stable as possible. Okay, so this is the premise, that it's a very unlikely event to happen. So if this actually happens, that Ragic is out of business, and I honestly, I would think that we would do everything we can to help you retrieve your data, and so at least we would keep the servers run for as long as possible, so that you could download your data. And with Ragic as an open source software, you should be able to kind of install Ragic on your own server, like an EC2, like a GCP AWS server yourself. So basically, you will still be able to restore a backup of your database to the open source Ragic if our company stops running. So yeah, because installing a free version of Ragic is actually really simple. Just follow instructions and 1, 2, 3. You should be able to install a copy of Ragic. So if it's free, it's gonna be permanently there, and you will be able to upload a backup of your data. We will make sure that you will be able to access a backup of your data. Because it's just there, and the cost of us providing all of our users to download that backup is just not very significant. So if that happens, if in an unlikely event that happens, we will allow you to download your database data and upload it to a free open source version of Ragic. Okay. In the unlikely event of Ragic going out of business, you will be able to download a copy of your database backup and upload it, restore it to a free open source version of Ragic on cloud service of your choice. Yeah. Promise to help you any way we can if this happens. Yeah, so still I try to explain the reason why Ragic is a relatively stable company, and yeah, and this is what we can think of, like how we can make sure that everybody can make the best use of their data even when Ragic goes out of business. Okay, but we're still doing very well, so just don't see it happening anytime soon. Okay, thank you for your questions. All right, and that's it for the Ragic Office Hour questions for today, and thank you for joining in. And if you have any more questions, feel free to use the Ragic Office Hour question sheet, and I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks. All right, thank you, bye.